Hello! This talk is about an experimental project named Noodle, which lets you build your animation as ramen. And Noodle is not only part of almost every dish in the world, but also may be encountered in its essence, if you look closely. Some areas and concepts which take a huge part in our life have a shape of noodle, sometimes as an infinite curve, sometimes it is just a cut. If you happen to be the adept of the theory of strings, it is to your beliefs that our world is arranged from strings, which are basically infinite sparse noodles. That for sure is true. If you are producing some kind of modern music, especially by connecting the electrical wires, you have the proof of the string theory at your hands, such as that you are aware that all the music is just sine waves modified in a ways joined or subtracted from each other. If you open a sound file with some music in your favorite sound editor, you are asked to obey the copyright laws when you do it. You'll see the long wave of sound harmonics combined, being spread along the axis of time. Those are recorded and reproducible numeric values. Yes, just numbers in a row. If you happen to work with color, you're aware that the additive model of producing color postulates that the color is the sum of three values: red, green, and blue, and when you add time to it, they become waves. If we track the coordinates of your eyes moving around the plot above and plot them over time, we would get two continuous waves of values, one for x and one for y. There could have been one for z as well, but we've decided to make this plot simple. Or, if some water gets gathered in a huge amount of space, and then there's the moon. Oh, it turns out to be obvious reference. Yes, all those waves change the value over time, and it's not always the bumpy shapes as in this nice picture, as well as the noodles in the world or the universe itself, regardless of their length, try to find the shape of comfort between the other mixed ingredients in, say, ramen. The heartbeat inside of your body is a wave, a noodle itself if you take time and focus on measuring it. So we at Noodle have noticed all these remarkable resemblances in the universe we live in, and we asked ourselves several questions. What if you were able to abstract over the specific meanings of those and just connect flows of values to some other flows of values? Okay, maybe with some restrictions, like not mixing Celsius with Fahrenheit, considering the time happening globally. Or, like the events in the Marvel Cinematic Universe nowadays, having branches of the time. Sure, we don't blindly pursue the fact that everything in our world is a wave. There are some special random events that seem to be just separate numbers, but those are just a very short constant valued waves. So, taking that the sound is a wave, color is a wave, motion is a wave, and only time is always a straight line, could one create animation this way? Sure, one could. Meet Noodle. This is where we take noodles and connect them into the ramen universe. In Noodle, we have a number of building blocks ready to build your animation from. We connect them with noodles or waves, name them as you want. Sometimes they deliver a single value from one block to another, but usually they represent continuous flows of values like the ones we've discussed before. Though I think it's better to show it in the product itself, let me demonstrate you.
This is the Hydra engine, which is the product by itself. Hydra is the live coding video synth engine, so it allows you to build different visuals and provides you with the ability to optionally use some external sources of data for the purpose, like time, mouse position, or sound harmonics incoming from microphone or your camera, if you let it use these devices, of course. It is developed by Olivia Jack and uses CodePen-like system to allow users from all over the internet to contribute with programming different sketches. There is the Twitter account that posts a link to every new sketch as it appears. As I press the shuffle button, the new random sketch is loaded into the system. As I press the dice button, the engine goes through the existing sketch and replaces the numeric values with random ones, so the visuals look a bit different, but not very. The API of this engine works on the chaining of functions and overall the principles similar to the ones of functional programming languages. So every piece of code uniquely identifies the way visuals look and behave. If they are affected by some external source, uniqueness applies as long as values from the source are the same. Aside the mentioned external sources of control, there are oscillators given as the internal source and one of the main building blocks in the engine. Please pay attention to the fact that, in general, all these sources of data are waves or streams of data. So are the positions of mouse, the time, the sound from the microphone, filtered or not, all kinds of two-dimensional noise, and of course oscillators. All of them are waves by their nature. Those are the reasons I decided to implement and test Noodle over this very engine as the first example. Now we ought to be fast.
Here is the Noodle project, which uses Hydra API as the engine to demonstrate its possibilities. Please note that Noodle is in active development, so what you see in the demo is almost definitely not the way it will look or behave at the point of release, be it alpha release or beta or something more stable. So for example, inputs for the numbers are not styled at all. Every function in Hydra corresponds to some node from the palette you see at the top of the screen. There are nodes that represent time or mouse or Voronoi system. The inputs and outputs can be just numbers or textures or data sources, since they are composed in the sketch only when they are connected to some output. Thanks to the algebraic data types, we may differ the types of inputs and outputs and don't allow connecting what is not allowed, and also paint them distinguishably different. As well as the inputs and outputs, notice that the nodes that produce or accept different types of outcome are different in colors on the palette. You may notice that there are many kinds of nodes that modify the data source. For example, they blend two textures. We are talking about dynamic textures here, using some value between 0 and 1. Or they take a texture and make a kaleidoscope out of it, with any number of mirrors. This kind of nodes is marked with either acid green or acid yellow or blue, because some more types are there. The source nodes such as noise or Voronoi are colored orange. The mouse and time inputs are white. By properly mixing all the ingredients of the soup, connecting them with noodles, you get the sketch you want. Or you may go into experimenting and find the unique soup that only your friends will pretend to like. Jokes aside, I really believe mindful experiments usually lead to inventions. Even with these approximately 60 of nodes, you can build truly a lot. I hope it is clear that Visual Way is easier to play with, since you see all the possibilities. Your actions are applied as you connect nodes to the output, and you may control what goes in and goes out. I will repeat, Noodle is in the process of development, and this is just the demo of its current condition. Please visit Noodle Labs JBGG to play with it yourself. Thank you for paying attention, and let's get back to the speaker.
Some could notice that nodes in the demo are acting very close to functions in math or programming, so it is just about Noodle or any visual programming environment being the interface for the algebraic nature of what happens around us. The beliefs of pure functional programming state that every function should return the same result when called with the same values, or else it is an effect. This applies to nodes as well. Because if it's not a value, if it's a wave or a signal or whatever you call it, it is also an effect. But it is a part of another story. And so it was named Noodle, thanks to suggestion from Sergo, a leader in computational arts initiative. Noodles because noodles connect things. Even better, noodles are actually connecting people. Just picture a frame from some romantic comedy for a proof. I'm working as the developer for as far as I can remember. Long Noodle short, it's been a while. Formerly, Noodle was called RPD, as in reactive patch development. It was powered by JavaScript and functional reactive programming, the concept popular at the time. The concept based on the aforementioned streams of events, but as a drawback, it made your JavaScript code look like spaghetti. Though it's a compliment in the context of our story today. It was until the pure functional programming came to front end. Elm programming language was inspired by and supported FRP, but streams were removed from the core library at some point. Pure script, on the other hand, takes it to the mathematical and algebraical roots of the concept. Of course, Noodle is not the only one, and Noodle was and keeps being inspired by several existing products. The idea of doing generative animation or generative audio using visual programming is there for truly a long time, at least starting from 1996 as of Pure Data, the tool that 3D from Massive Attack used to introduce some more character to the music. Or maybe it was Alan Kay from 60s with his talks on visual programming. Let's list some of the tools that inspired my work. Pure Data is the free tool for programming generative music, being here starting from late 90s, and you could be surprised to know that you actually heard the examples of its usage in some popular songs. In Pure Data, there's a special bold connection between nodes which designates the stream of sound and this way separates it from the packages of data sent through the connections marked distinguishably narrower. MaxMSP is the commercial product which is integrated in Ableton Live, being the evolution of Pure Data, based on the same concepts, but taking it further with custom UI components and by being behind some of the basic instruments for producing music in the Ableton itself. FIAFAO is the library for building quite anything with nodes, like connecting to IoT, physical devices like Arduinos or robots, backed up by a large community producing their own sets of nodes, as it is used in some museums, as well as for visualizations of the screens behind and around electronic music performers. Taji Designer is a commercial tool to build complex visual effects, being used in commercials or sometimes for the special effects in the movies, and yes again, as the visualization at techno parties. Houdini Side Effects is for 3D animation, and its node system looks oh how fancy. Blender node system is used to define complex materials in 3D animation, being a part of a free community-powered tool for the animation in 3 more or less dimensions. ENSO is the latest product I'm aware of, a successor of Lunalang, being the visual functional programming language for data processing, but not only, and many more nowadays like Cables.gl or Nodes.io for WebGL. Here are the links to the mentioned products These are the products that rectify the modern visual programming using nodes in different approaches and styles. Noodle is being developed as an experiment for designers from JetBrains to automate the tasks of dealing with massive needs of animation and generative static visuals during usual workflow and marketing campaigns. We have a motion design team which could benefit from creating visuals and backgrounds for marketing purpose. We could write minimal interactive installations when offline conferences will be back, or having them online in case if they want. So some of the key features of Noodle are: Noodle is being developed to be open and extensible with custom plugins. It works and will work in web, be it Web 2.0 or Web 3.0 or whatever next version of web. Noodle supports different styling as a feature. The current version is being written in pure script, which is very pure functional language for web, so it would be stable and has all the algebraic concepts lying behind the Noodle-powered ideas. The language for writing toolkits will be different though. The syntax will be closer to pure data files, or else it wouldn't be easy extensible. The demo is located by the following link. Feel free to visit and discover current state of the source code. Thank you, and thanks to all who organized this conference. Let some Noodle in your life!